All right, we looked at 3 keys so far. Law equals love. Second key, there's a big difference between making a judgment and judging someone's soul. And the third point is that relativism is not neutral. It is a point of view, a certain way of looking at the world. Don't impose your way of looking at the world on me. Fourth point, relativism is often a mask. Relativism is often a mask. Years ago, I was speaking at a conference in New York City area. I was actually over the other side of the Hudson in Newark at a big convention center that had these big windows that overlooked lower Manhattan. It was a spectacular views at night of the city. And I gave a talk there on moral relativism. And some young adult came up to me afterwards. He had a notebook. He was saying, "Oh, Dr. Shree, I loved the talk. Thank you so much. And I've never really heard about this relativism. I've got a big question for you." I said, "Oh, what's that?" And he says, "Do you think I'm a relativist?" I go, "I don't know. I'm just getting to know you." And I said, "But you're here. You're a Catholic, right?" "Oh, yeah." "And you're at this Catholic conference?" "Oh, I love going to Catholic things. I'm involved in the young adult group in my city." "Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like you're probably not a relativist. I mean, do you follow the church's teachings on the important moral matters?" "Oh, yeah. Like for example, you're pro-life?" He goes, "Oh, yeah. I think abortion's wrong. Yeah, abortion's wrong for me." There were those 2 little words, "for me." And I asked him, what do you mean for me? He said, "Well, I mean, yeah, for me, abortion's wrong. It's horrible. You shouldn't kill a baby, but if somebody else doesn't think it's a baby in the womb, then for them, what they're doing is okay." "Yep, you're a relativist." "Yeah, that's okay." I started arguing with them. There's now like a crowd of other young adults kind of gathering around. I go, "Really? I mean, this is either a baby, a human person, or it's not. My feelings don't make it a person or not. It really is or not." And he just wouldn't hear anything of it. He had mentioned to me how he was a devout Catholic. He goes to the young adult group. He mentioned earlier that he loved going to Eucharistic adoration. And so I changed topics off of abortion. I said, "You mentioned you love going to adoration. You love Jesus and the Eucharist." "Oh, yeah, I love the Eucharist." Okay. So imagine if there was somebody that came into a chapel and desecrated the Eucharist. Wouldn't that just be bad in reality? He goes, oh, that would be horrible. Oh, that'd be really bad for me." "What do you mean from you?" "Well, because I believe in the real presence, but if somebody's of a different faith tradition, they don't believe that this Eucharist, for them it's just bread, it's not a big..." "No, it really either is Jesus or it's not." And so I go to John 6, all these things. And again, he just wouldn't hear anything of this. He just kept saying, no, for me it's wrong, but for other people it would be okay. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. More and more people gathering around. Finally, I was going to the more volume approach, which probably wasn't the best thing. And I just pointed out the window. I said, "Look right down there, down in lower Manhattan, because just a few years ago, there used to be 2 towers standing there. And on September 11, 2001, terrorists hijacked airplanes and crashed them into those buildings, and thousands of people died. Do you mean to tell me you could go up to the little children who lost their mom or dad in the World Trade Center that day and look those children in the eye and say that what happened on September 11, what those terrorists did, wasn't bad for them because what they thought they were doing was good? Could you really look the kids in the eye and do that?" He said, "Oh, man, wow, that would be really hard. I lost friends in the World Trade Center that day. This is really personal, but I guess if I have to be honest and consistent, yeah, I'd have to tell the children that." And at this, I was dismayed. I couldn't believe he said that. And at this point, I just thought, I need plan B. And I said, I have nothing more I think I could say to you. There's something you said to me that I want to bring back to your attention. You said you love Jesus and the Eucharist. There's a chapel right here. We're standing outside a little conference room that they set up and had the Blessed Sacrament there. Would you at least go into the chapel and ask Jesus what he thinks of your moral relativism? Ask him if he thinks this relativism is right? He goes, "Oh, okay, I'll do that." So we walked in together and we knelt down. We just said an Our Father quietly in the back of the chapel. And then I left. He pulled out his journal and he was writing. But I had never, I know there's people out there like this. I never had met someone that was really willing to go that far with his relativism. I just couldn't, I was stunned. So I'm leaving the conference the next day after the closing mass. And he comes and he tracks me down with his notebook and goes, Dr. Shree, I was thinking about a lot of what you told me about last night. Thanks so much for talking to me. And I stayed in the chapel till 2 o'clock in the morning. Here's all the things I wrote. And I got to tell you something. I realized in the chapel last night that I'm not a relativist. I said, oh, really? He says, no, I've been just wanting to say I'm a relativist. And he looked down, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, I've been wanting to say I'm a relativist because I want to be able to say premarital sex is okay. Then he looked down again, and then he looked me square in the eye and said, I want to be able to say premarital sex is okay for me. What an honest, humble young man to track me down, come back, and admit that the real reason he was espousing relativism wasn't because it made sense to him. It's just because he wanted to justify some immoral behavior in his own life. He admitted, I realize I just need to work on my chastity. That's the issue, not relativism. And I share that story with you because many times when you're talking to someone about some moral issue, you've just got to be realizing that it's very possible that the issue isn't the particular topic at hand. There's an issue behind the issue, an issue in that person's own moral life. That when they're saying, hey, you shouldn't judge those gay couples, you shouldn't judge the person having an abortion, they're really saying, don't judge me for my own little sin. Because if I can say there's no moral truth out there at all, then that makes it easier for me to keep contracepting with my wife or keep, marrying and remarrying and not have to follow what Jesus said about a lifelong marriage. So there's little things that possibly could be under them. Psychologists talk about cognitive dissonance. You know what that is? The idea that when you've got your behavior doesn't match up with your beliefs, we just don't have internal peace and harmony there. We just don't feel good about ourselves. So what do? We either have to change our behavior to line up with our beliefs again, get things right, or what's the other thing we could do? We change our beliefs to justify our behavior, right? Jesus calls us all the time, right? Who here does things that they know they shouldn't do? All of us, we're sinners. So changing our behavior to go and correspond to our beliefs, that's just what the gospel calls conversion, repentance. That's what Jesus wants us to do. But sadly, what many other people do is they just change their beliefs to justify their behavior. And those are the people that never really grow. They never really mature spiritually, morally, because they're just always wanting to do whatever they want. It's kind of like, do you ever do this? You kind of tell yourself something like, I'm gonna start exercising, or I'm gonna eat healthy. Let's use that for example. I'm gonna eat healthy foods now. And I just read this article about how bad fried foods are. So I'm gonna make a commitment to eat healthy foods. I make that commitment on Monday. Now I'm out with my colleagues at a restaurant where, at TGI Fridays on a Thursday afternoon. And I'm gonna eat healthy. I'm gonna order a salad. But all of a sudden, all my friends order all these plates of really big onion rings. You smell the onion rings there, and they're right before you. And your mind is saying, I made a commitment to eat healthy, but I'm watching my hand just kind of go out and grab the onion ring, and I'm putting it. But I don't really feel great about myself, right? When I'm doing this, I don't feel at peace, so I have to do something. I either have to say, nope, I'm gonna stop, or I change my beliefs, and I'll say something like, oh, it's just this one time, it's Thursday night, or, I'm gonna have a salad later, so maybe that'll balance it out, or onions are a vegetable, yeah, so I have to do something, you know what I'm saying? We do this in little things all the time. There are many people out in the world who want to just keep persisting in their own behavior. They end up changing their beliefs, abandoning the idea that there's truth so that they can justify the way that they're living.